to our art talk on racism. Um, Welcome to the 2021 Curatorial Fellowship, the Evanston Arts Center. My co-host, Adira Nod, and myself, Alpha Bhutan, are the inaugural fellows for the Evanston Arts Center Curatorial Fellowship. Our artistic vision for curated experiences at the Evanston Arts Center entails an intergenerational curatorial practice that seeks to provide a model for emerging and established curators to innovate in curating inclusive experiences, gain practical curating experience, and critically reflect on how their cultural or curatorial style will imprint on the Evanston community and the world. We had talked about inviting a call for diverse artists, women, people of color, LGBTQIA, and disabled artists to provide works that reflect each theme. Our art talk today will focus on the intersectionality, and how it affects our lived experiences as seen in the practice of each artist. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, perfect.
A little bit about our curators. My co-curator, Adira Knott, is an emerging curator who debuted at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, curating disability and perspective, one of our 4 exhibits belonging to the Commons Artist Project of Norman Teague and Flo Wilson Black House Studios. Adira is a prosthetic designer and founder of AK Prosthetics Corp, an adaptive tech startup on a mission to make customized prosthetics and adaptive wearables accessible and inclusive. Adira has been featured in Forbes, Chicago Sun-Times, and America Inu for her innovative work in the community of Chicago. Adira is also an ADA 25 Advancing Leadership Fellow of 2020. In my curatorial practice is the Phantom Gallery Chicago Network. The Phantom Gallery galleries are temporary exhibitions in non-traditional gallery settings. I am a co-author and curator and researcher for Pop-Up Research Station, a creative conversation, a project that is a portal where curators nationally share knowledge and resources of best practices, ongoing professional development, and is a place for moral support to enhance our collective impact while staging pop-up exhibitions. And thank you for joining us this afternoon, Candace.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Of course. Yes, Candace, we're so excited to have you here today. As our featured artists, I know with like our past art talks, we've had like the established artists and the emerging artists, and really bridging together those 2 different perspectives. But today we will have you as our featured artist, so you'll be the star of the show. And so, so I would like to go ahead and introduce you. So Candace Hunter, using she, her pronouns, is a Chicago-based artist, creates collage, paintings, installations, and performance art. Plainly, she tells stories through the use of appropriated materials from magazines, vintage maps, cloth, various reused materials. She offers this new landscape of materials back to the viewer with a glimpse of history and admiration of the beautiful. During the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, she began to do 2 things: offer free art classes on Instagram to create what she now calls her Brown Limbed Girls, a growing series of whimsical brown girls enjoying their lives. She's extremely happy to share the girls with a new audience on the West Coast. A highly respected artist in the Midwest, C.H. Lee has recently received the Tim and Helen Meyer Family Foundation Award, the 3 Arts Award, and honored by the Diaspora Rhythms Collective. In 2020, she served as a juror for the Kentucky Foundation for Women and was asked to speak at the Midwest Women in Ecology Conference. Yes. All right, thank you so much for being with us today, Candace. We are so excited.
Thank you.
All right, so on to our very first question.
Okay.
How do you identify, and how is your identity expressed in your work?
Oh, how do I identify? I am the daughter of Dr. May Elise McDonald Hunter and Henderson Hunter. I am the sibling, the youngest of 4. I am the mother of Aisha Wright, who is a burgeoning artist in her own right, and partner to Arthur Wright, one of the most wonderful artists in Chicago. And I am an artist, and my life has always surrounded the arts, not always visual arts. Sometimes it was performing arts, but I've always been in the circle of the arts for my entire life. So I'm an artist in Chicago, and I'm a brown-limbed girl.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, Alpha.
Yes. I want to ask this question about, what are some ways you as artists examine the state of your environment through your visual work, community, and curated spaces?
Cam, I need you to ask that again,
Okay.
because that sounded like several questions in one.
Well, first of all, we're talking about examining the state of our environment. And the question is, and tell us about some ways that in your own visual work, you examine that. And not only in your own visual artwork, but in the community and curated spaces that you exist.
So I'm going to talk about something that happened a little more than a year ago here in Chicago. My daughter, who at the time was finishing up her, in the midst of her junior year of college, she was spending it here at home because of the pandemic. We decided, all of us, that it was better for her to be here. And she was taking a conceptual art course. And one of the things that she was asked to do in that class was to look at conceptual artists and to recreate something they had done. So her father and I sat on our lawn in chairs, and we did Marina Abramovic's Artist. So we were just sitting in communion with one another, facing one another, and our daughter took a picture of that. I started thinking about that moment, about how an artist sees and how an artist looks at someone else, and how that view comes back to you as an artist. So I decided that I wanted to recreate Abramovic's work on our lawn. And let me explain, our lawn, so Alpha, you've never been here, but Adero has. I have a front lawn that is a football field size. We have 10,000 square feet of lawn. So I've got all of this green space that's just, it's idyllic. I'm sitting in the heart of Chicago, but yet we are separate from all sounds, all distractions. And it's like living in this country setting right in the center of Chicago. So I invited other artists and other arts-minded people to come and sit in peace and quiet and solitude with me for 15 minutes at a time. And so we set it up and we did a schedule, and my daughter videotaped everything. And in the midst of our being in absolute peace with one another and feeling each other's souls and spirit, my daughter kept getting distracted because she has an app on her phone that tells her the things that are going on in the world. The thing that was going on in the world at that moment was the start of protests after Mr. Floyd was murdered. So she's saying to me, there are people rioting on 47th. I live at 49th. I say, where on 47th? She goes, there's a riot right there at 47th and Cottage. There's another one at 47th and Lake Park. There, you know, so I'm not watching the news. She's getting these dings, and I'm still trying to go through this afternoon of peace and understanding soul and spirit and art. And at a certain point, because I did not know when people tell you things, people are writing, you don't know at that moment if it's violent or if it's really protest. You don't know what's going on. So I decided after doing, I think, 12 visitors at 15 minutes apiece, that we needed to cut the afternoon short. And so we then contacted all the people who were coming later in the day and saying, stay home, stay safe, because I don't know what's going on around, surrounding the neighborhood. I know it's peaceful here, but around the neighborhood, I don't know. So here we were in this absolute positive and negative space of what was going on, very quiet and peaceful and centered in art. And then something else that was going on. So the energy was great, and it could be felt, and you didn't quite know what you were feeling. I had a studio visit just the other day with the incredible photographer Cecil McDonald, and he was one of the guests on the lawn that day. And he told me that that day he was feeling the charge that was going on in the world, not just the city, in the world, and he was feeling it, and he felt like he needed to go. And he never spoke. This is a year later, we never spoke about it. So it was very interesting to hear other people's takes on that afternoon. One of the other people that was here is a newscaster in Chicago. She's getting, her partner who was with her is getting dings on his phone from her station, talking about what's going on in Chicago. So we're hearing things and you don't know. You just don't know. And so after everyone left, we got in the car to see what was happening in our neighborhood. And so the news is saying one thing is going on. Then we drive down to 53rd and we see people who look like the three of us in conversation peacefully walking down 53rd Street. And then behind them, about 20 minutes after they go by, there are other people who are up to, no good. But the protests were coming through all of these streets first, and the protests had every right to do so. So those protests were as much a part of an art liberation as anything else that I can imagine. So my work that day wasn't centered in protest, but protest decided to come and sit on it and become a part of it. So that was a little over a year ago. And then after that, the world was taking so many twists and turns that you had to keep your heart and mind in a place of protection so that things outside of your world weren't damning and damaging to you, or at least that's how I felt. So there's a protection that I needed to place around me, my house, my child, my partner, to make sure that we stayed all right through everything that was going on in this year of civil unrest and the pandemic. So we had two things coming at us at the same time. And so one had to be very careful of one's own self, their minds and hearts and spirits. So did that answer anything, Alpha?
It did, and we live in the same, thank you for sharing that, because I really bailed. I went to a safe place. I went down near Scotts Air Force Base. So I was hearing from Adira what she was going through, because she was right on 47 in St. Lawrence.
Right there on.
And right there by the you know, she was right there by the fire station. So she was hearing the helicopters and she was telling me about the sounds of the night. I retreated, you know, because, you know, my son's military, Air Force, and I was able to go to a government safe space, you know, not on base, but a safe community, if you want to call it safe. Because I'm right here on the cuff, right in the center of Bronzeville on 47th Street, you know, where that, you know, it started off as a peaceful protest coming down because the city of Chicago Police Department had started putting up these barricades to keep people from going down to downtown. So that's why they were diverted toward Lakeshore Drive, where you all lived. And so I was hearing these experiences, but again, I wasn't here to be traumatized by it. And I could just, I've been by your place. I haven't been in the gate and haven't been over to your events, but I've been in the neighborhood where you know where you are, and it is a very peaceful, tranquil neighborhood where you are. And I just couldn't imagine any of this of what you all were going through, but I could imagine, and I could feel, you know, something that's going to be generational now. You know, trauma on the whole entire community, and it impacted you directly. So I'm really glad you were able to share this part of that narrative of what happened that day, you know, and what was going on. And Adara has not had a chance to talk about it. And I think that this is an opportune time to kind of talk about that, because we are doing this fellowship and we're in the midst of everything closing down and opening up. And I think it's an opportune time to discuss that, Adara, if you please, because you were able to get out of the state, the whole United States, and get out of here, you know, to salvage and survive mentally and emotionally. You and Lottie were able to just like go to another country.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. Like when I would say when the protest started, I really don't like to use like riots and looting, you know, because it's all valid in some way, especially with everything that's happening to our people, especially during that time, and especially how outraged we were and how we felt like we weren't being heard and how we continue to feel that way. Like I was right there because you know, Lottie and I lived on off of 46 and Evans, and then we moved like four blocks away. When we lived on St. Lawrence, then we moved to, you know, 46 and Evans. There's the McDonald's right there, the Walmart's right there, and we were right there. We actually were protesting. We were in the protest. We were in the peaceful protest, and we were coming down. Cottage Grove, not even coming down, I guess coming down Cottage Grove, went down King Drive a bit. We were like, you know, went down to Hyde Park. And then on our way home, we were like, okay, we've done enough. Because you never want to be in a protest too long. You never know what's going to happen, if it's going to go, you know, Ari or whatnot. And it ended up doing that. You know, as we were coming home, you know, that's when they started looting, and we can hear it happening. They were working their way down from like the west of 47 to the east towards us, towards Cottage Grove. And there was so much commotion happening that the police were there were several police cars that drove past that mini mall right there on 47th and Cottage, because there was just so much going on that the looting that was happening right there wasn't even that important at the time, because there was so much commotion happening that day all over the city of Chicago. I mean, it felt so emotional, you know, watching our people, you know, take things. Like, I kind of understood it. It, you know, it kind of felt free just standing in the midst of all of that. You know, you've never really been around it. People were literally buying food in the Walmart as it was being looted. It was just a lot of stuff going on. It was just so much going on. And, you know, they didn't touch the daycare right there. They left the daycare alone. There were certain things that they left alone, but things that were like, you know, definitely not owned by us over there. That Snipes shoe store was tore up. I mean, it was just so much going on. And that definitely led to the reason why, you know, my partner Lottie and I, like, why we left. You know, he left for school, and I really left for my own sanity. I didn't feel safe in Chicago. And, you know, anytime I go somewhere and they talk about Chicago in a bad light, I'm always defending, you know, Chicago because it's my home and they truly don't understand, you know, why it is the way it is. But it's difficult to live within that environment and, you know, try to propel yourself forward, you know, when the environment kind of makes you feel like you're in a survival state or in survival mode. And I'm just happy that we were able to leave the country. And even though we were, you know, living in the pandemic, still able to get out, you know, and propel ourselves in a safer environment, an environment where, you know, it's quiet and we can like focus on our work and just focus on our mental health. You know, we've both gone to therapy, and that's been, you know, a tremendous help. But yeah, I haven't really talked about, you know, what happened during that time and how I felt. You know, we were just experiencing it and just trying to, you know, get through it as best as we can. But there were 2 months we didn't have a grocery store. That Walmart was out of commission for about 2 months. And what's so crazy is that, you know, I was working for Uber Freight at that time. And, you know, my manager, like all these white people that I worked with, had no idea the severity and magnitude of what it's like. You know, you're in your neighborhood and you don't have a grocery store and you want me to work. It was just a lot. But I'm happy that, you know, I no longer am in that position. I'm happy to come back to Chicago. I'm coming back to Chicago this weekend. I love to visit. So that's been like, you know, my take. And, you know, I love Chicago. I love the culture. I love the people. It's just a lot of unfortunate things happening there that are really stemming from the systemic oppression and the racism and the it's just so much that is the reason as to why Chicago is in the state that it is. So thank you for giving me space to share that.
Absolutely.
So, Candace, I mean, this is like, I mean, we have to breathe here. Because now we walk down the street and it's a year later and it's nothing. There's some board up things that are still going on, but you wouldn't even think that a year later, you know, we had to press the pause button to move forward.
Yeah.
And I was not here in Chicago during the riots in the 60s, but you're here, you know, you're here in that space, you know, that probably, you know, we're that generation, right? That experienced that type of thing that went on. I'm the generation from the Black Panther Party, you know, being cadre but again, I was probably in a safe space at that age when those riotings were happening, but I know it impacted Chicago. So, you know, we're talking in terms of the intergenerational and collective trauma, you know, over the decades, you know, as you know, professional curators, you know, on this discussion. So again, thank you for that insight for how we still use our art, you know, to heal. And hopefully, you know, our conversations will kind of, you know, put a light on and not be dismissive of what our experiences have been this year. So with that, I'm excited to look at your slides of your work and have you talk to us about your series.
So we're going to try my best to do this. So Daryl, you're the one who's going to let me go to share.
It's already done.
So my lovely daughter was helping me get to this because so I'm going to show you the 2 latest pieces that I've created. And they're both in a show that is opening at the Connect Gallery in Harper's Court in Chicago this Saturday. Martha Wade is the curator of the show. And the pieces are called Bound and Unbound. So this one is bound, and let me see. How, I'm not doing this right. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. You're doing great.
Oh, give me one moment. So that was bound. And this is unbound.
Oh, and please describe the photo, the images that we're seeing, like the colors, what it looks like. We just want to make sure that, everything is as accessible as possible for our audience.
So there are two figures, one looking to the right, one looking to the left. And the figures are cut out of a digitized paper that was of a vintage sheer kitchen curtain that had roses, and when you're close to it, you can see what looks like the interior of the curtain. I don't know if I do this, if you can see that or not. And so she is cut out, and the background are several colors of greens and blues. And then collaged on top of this one, there's not a lot of collage on it, is a lovely butterfly wing. And she is dropping these cords down to the ground. They're unfurling to the ground because she has declared her freedom from any number of things. So this is the unbound. Let me see if I can go back easily to the, there should be an easy way to go back and forth to them, but I don't know how.
Try the arrow keys, like the left and right arrow keys, once you share the screen. I think that'll help.
Okay. So I actually don't see left and right arrow keys on my screen. So those are the two newest pieces, and they are part of and the lovely Martha Wade came up with the title for the show, and unfortunately I can't pronounce it, but it means to flourish. So I think it's like floresis, and my language is not good. Am I no longer sharing?
No, you're no
No.
longer sharing.
I'm not?
No.
Yeah, click on share screen at the bottom.
Let me go back to that because I thought I was.
We can cut this part or put this part on pause, Candace.
US Open down in, so at the US Open in Miami, while she was on the side of the court, a butterfly came and lighted upon the tip of her hand, and she didn't brush it away, she didn't shoo it away, and then it moved and it lit on her cheek. She let it be. She didn't disturb the butterfly. Then it sat on her hair. She didn't shake her head. She just let it be. Then it went back to her hand, and she walked back over to the sidelines and just let it go. And it was just the most wonderful moment of seeing peace in action. And that the French Open is trying to destroy this girl's peace, I want to pop them.
She was truly, like, when something that happens, that gave her a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So yeah, that's Osaka Nocturne. So I'm still trying to get this to come up.
Well, we're gonna go through your slides, and we have time.
Okay.
Oh, tell me about this one with the beads in the middle, the pearls here.
So that one is Janus, Janus, /Janice, Jnice. So thinking about, there's a wonderful African sculpture that's a Janus head that, and Janus, Janus, is actually a Greek term for the two-headed sculpture. And so anybody who's talking about a two-headed piece still uses that Greek term, Janus. But this African sculpture, and it's of the Bale peoples, is the two-headed woman, and she has these intricate braids that wrap around from one side to the other of the head, so that wherever you turn it, you're still seeing these wonderful, almost want to say Medusa-like braids, but they're not snakes. They are these braids that just keep intertwining. And so I was thinking about that sculpture when I created this piece. And their dresses are made from a vintage French wallpaper. And all of the bodies on my brown limbed girls, I use the exact same paint, and the paint is actually not a brown. The paint is purple madder, MADDER. But when purple madder interacts with any other color, it immediately looks brown. It looks like the deepest, most wonderful, rich brown. If I just put it on a white background, you would see that it was a deep purple. But as soon as you have any other color reacting to it, it becomes the most vibrant brown. And so I've chosen to use that particular color for these bodies. And it was so funny, in the middle of the pandemic, I was running out of paint, and I was just like, oh, I've got to order some. And the company I used didn't have any. And I was just like, no, I need this. So some other smart Alex on Facebook were like, oh, you can mix your own. And I'm just like, no, I can't. Not so that it's exactly the same for each one. So you can mix something that's kind of like, but then it's going to be different. And I wanted those exact measurements that this company had. And so finally, I was able to order some more. Let me see, we're in June now, so like February. And I was like digging the last out of the last pot that I had. And I was so thankful that they finally had some more. So all of my limbs are the purple madder.
Yeah, that's another thing that happened. None of the paint stores felt that the arts were an essential, where we couldn't pick up our art supplies, we couldn't pick up canvases, have anything shipped. It took months. So, that's a whole nother area, where the artists, we're here as art and wellness, art heals communities, that you won't even recognize the essential part that we play in, in the environment and what we do. So this piece here, this collage here is really interesting here, Candace.
The one with the hand up or the ear with the rose, the peony?
Rose.
So that was done actually before I started the Brown Limbed Girls. And I believe that I created it. So I was in New York right before the pandemic started, before we knew anything about COVID. I think it's literally the next week I returned home and you started hearing about this disease. And I think this piece was created that week. And I'm going to tell you that I don't remember her name, but I had done several princesses and queens, and she is the princess of, I believe, of travel and safety. So I don't know if you can see, she has a lock in her forehead. So she keeps memories tied and tight. She's traveling with this luggage, and she travels in style. So she's one of the princesses that I did. The one to the other side of her
Yes.
is actually, a lot of my work is influenced by photographs that I see.
You're on mute for some reason.
Chicago's jazz songbird. There was a photo of her outside at a park with her hand held up and the sun gleaming through her hand. And I said, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And Dee wears lots of extraordinary rings and bracelets when she's performing, and her hair is usually this wonderful thing that's going on. Sometimes it's locks, sometimes it's waves. And I was just like, I need to do Dee's hand capturing the sunlight. So that doesn't look like the ring that she actually wore or the bracelets. It's not the color of her hair, but I wanted the feeling of this wild, wonderful woman holding the sun in her hands. And so that's mostly paper collage. A lot of times my work is mostly paint with a little paper. That one's mostly paper.
I've seen your work here at Gallery Ducharme when we're exhibiting together, and the collage work that you do is really amazing. The way the vibrancy of the colors that you select, and you know,
Thank you.
yeah, I thought I really meant to say that. I think, when we do our shows that we are so rushed in the event, that we don't get a chance to talk to each other often.
Right.
Right. So we're gonna go on to maybe this show here that is coming up in at the Thelma Harris Art Gallery in Oakland, California.
Yes. So with all so we started. Okay. So we talked about a few minutes ago about the start of protests in Chicago and how we all were where we were. And two of the things that I started to do during this pandemic and season of civil unrest, because they went hand in hand, was that I started doing two things. I started doing free art classes online on Instagram and sometimes on YouTube, where I just invited people into my world to be creative for 45 or 50 minutes, 3 times a week. You did not have to be an artist. In fact, I preferred you not to be an artist. I preferred it for people who were stuck in their homes, who were used to the social interaction of work and did not have that because they were sheltering in place. And I wanted to give them a way that was almost meditative in how to tap into their creative soul. And so I did that. And again, my daughter, she videotaped all of them. God bless her heart. And I eventually paid her for some of them. And the other thing I did were these brown-limbed girls. And they just started out as being this kind of whimsical kind of girl that just kind of made me happy. And I was hoping they made other people happy. As soon as I started posting them, people asked to purchase. And I didn't know if I was really ready to do that yet, because I felt like there was something coming in doing these. And so I sold the first 2, and then I said, no, I'm not going to sell anymore. I need to hold on. I think I need to create a body. In the meantime, I got a message from Amanda Williams, and she said, do you want to do this thing with the city, Candace? We're doing this COVID awareness project. They're going to be billboards. We really like the brown-limbed girls. And of course I said, absolutely, yes, I want to do that. So 2 of the girls ended up being on billboards on the southwest side of Chicago. And that was very, very exciting for me. And that particular one I produced a print of and sold them online. And that kept the roof over my head for a minute. That kept the groceries in the refrigerator. So the Brownland girls were already giving me something back for what I was doing. In the midst of that, I decided to reach out to a gallery that I really respect that's in New Orleans. It's the Stella Jones Gallery that I Dr. Jones has now celebrated her 26th year of being a woman Black-owned gallery of really quality work in New Orleans. And I reached out to her. I just wrote her a letter, and I've been writing letters to every gallery in Chicago since my gallerist, Nicole Smith, had passed, to find another gallery to represent me. I didn't like being the artist who was cobbling things together. It was so much energy to try and do that. That's just like, when do you get to do the work when you're constantly trying to figure this out and figure that out?
Yeah.
So I reached out to Dr. Jones, and I expected, most galleries are going to take, if they're liking you, they're going to take 3 months to get back to you. If you're lucky, 6 months. If you're not quite so lucky, and probably never for a whole lot of people. I told my partner, Arthur, that I had sent this email to her, and I included some of the Brownland girls. That evening, I get an email from Dr. Jones. I couldn't even open it right away, because this is like, I sent the email this afternoon and you've responded to me in the same day. I could not open the email. I said, Arthur, I need you to open the email and see what she says. I need to know if this is just a bounce back. I need to know if she's actually saying something lovely to me. And he read it and he said, she would love to talk to you. Please give her a call tomorrow. And I was freaking out. I was just like, how is this happening? And she loved the brown limbed girls. And so things started happening very quickly. Next thing I know, I had a show in New Orleans. It opened on March the 6th. And I walked into the gallery an hour before the show was to open to the public. And the gallery director said to me, well, we've sold 8 pieces already. And I had to sit down for a moment. I was just like, wow, okay. So after I returned to Chicago, I got a call from the business manager of the gallery who said, Dr. Jones would like to talk to you about the gallery representing you. We would like to know if that's something you're interested in. And the answer was, hell yes, I'm very interested. And so some other things were going on with me at the time, some medical stuff, some surgery, some stuff. And so had to deal with that, but still elated and buoyed by that these brown limbed girls have given me the opportunity to have gallery representation. After I've had my surgery and I'm back home and I'm recuperating, I get a call from Dr. Jones who says, so what are you doing in August? And I said, nah, nothing that I can think of. And I'm realizing that it's too soon to have another show at Stella Jones. The show was in March. You can't have another one in August. That just doesn't make logistical sense. And so she says, so have you heard of Thelma Harris Gallery? And I said, no. It sounds familiar, but I don't think so. And what was hitting my heart when I heard the name, I have a very dear friend, a playwright, Paul Carter Harrison, and his mother, her name was Thelma Harrison. And so when I heard Thelma Harris, I immediately thought of the beautiful Thelma that I knew and had loved and admired. And she called all of the young people who were in her life that she loved her doves. And after she passed, I always felt that Thelma was part of my angel crew, those people who looked out for me. And I felt like Thelma was saying, this is a good thing, go for it. So I called Miss Harris and we've set up for this show that will be in August of this year. And we talked about, so she wanted the Brownland girls.
Yes.
And of course I said, so Stella sold all of them. And she was just like, well, I'm going to need 25.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, okay. So Stella had 24 and that was a year's worth of work. We are talking in April about August. And I'm just like, so okay, I'm going with God and I'm going with the original Thelma Harris saying, you got this, darling. My dove, you have this. And so I was making the work here at home and I realized I just needed more space if I was going to like really do this work. And so I started looking for spaces and I couldn't find one. And finally I reached out to the Hyde Park Art Center and I said, so I just need a space for like 2.5 months, just so I can get this work done. They said, give us a week, let us think about it. A week passed, they called me back and they said, so if you can share a space, you have a space. I said, I can share a space. So I'm literally in the second largest residency space at the Hyde Park Art Center. They've been so wonderful to me. The person I share the space with, the hours that she's there are minimal. So I have multiple days where I'm there alone. I get to hang everything, see everything, and progress. And really, I'm able to look at the work all hanging. I couldn't do that at home. And so I'm very thankful to them and thankful to all of my residency neighbors. William Estrada, who is a 3 Arts awardee like I am, we came through the same year. He's in residence there. Dorothy Burge, who does the most incredible quilts. She's working on, I'm going to say this wrong. She works with incarcerated Black men and trying to get them out. And so she does quilts based on those men. And it's just, so it's an amazing crew of people that I share the halls with and tea with sometimes. And it's just been the best. And then something really cool happened. I posted on Facebook one day, maybe, I don't know, if it's Instagram, because people still wanted prints of the work. Because I told you, I started doing prints at the very beginning. Dr. Jones said, you can't do any more prints, princess. We can't do this and do this. And I said, I got it. I said, okay. So as I'm showing the new works, people are going, can I have a print? And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I can't. Well, how much are they for? I'm sorry, I need you to go to the gallery. I'm not the person doing that anymore, which I'm always very happy to say. I'm not handling that. And so I just kind of, it wasn't a joke, but it was a testing of the waters that my angels up above told me to put out there. And I said, so if I were to do a book of the Brown-Limbed Girls, who would be interested? And I immediately started getting me. So it was like, I think by the end of the day, I had like 300 people going, they wanted to buy a book. They wanted to put their money on this right now. And I'm just like, hold up, because we're not really sure what it's going to be yet. But yeah. And then a couple of people started going, oh, you should do a coloring book too for children. Well, no, not really. And then someone said, Candace, because you started out as a performer, which I did, they said, I see something performative in this work. So I've been talking to the people at the Hyde Park Art Center, and we will more than likely have a performance of some of the flash fiction that I wrote that goes along with some of the girls. So we will probably do that in early August. So really, really excited about, because they're little short stories that go with some of them, or sometimes it's just the headline from the day of what was going on when I created some of them. So I'm very excited about how they kind of come to life and how they literally speak to people as opposed to being these two-dimensional pieces only.
Thank you for taking us through that, terrific journey, because all of our projects are a journey, and, they're not mishaps. They're, unexpected lucky breaks. So like you said, your
Yeah,
angels are coming down and you put it in the thought in the universe, and the universe rewarding you. So congratulations,
thank you.
on your gallery representation and how these, new works that you're doing are really touching people because they're communicating with the collector.
Yeah. I want to say, oh, if that's
Go
okay.
ahead. No, sure.
Okay. Candace, I know you were hustling to find gallery. You were hustling to find gallery representation, and you did it. So I am very proud of you because you made sure you knew how to use social media. You were like, okay, I'm going to figure out this Instagram. I'm going to figure out this Facebook. I'm going to get my websites going. You did it. I'm very proud of you.
I
You did it.
was like, yeah, I gotta do this.
No, you did
So
it.
yeah, when I started doing the art classes,
Mhm.
There was no money exchange. I wasn't one of the people who did the Patreon or, had the Cash App thing. I really just wanted to create a space for people to tap into their best selves. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted people to have a moment to be away from all of the fear that was going on because of the virus, all of the fear that was going on with the world and what's happening on this street and that street and the other. I wanted there to be that. And so it was a goodwill mission. And I think because of I did it out of goodwill and for no other reason, all of a sudden I started getting other eyes looking at me that I probably never would have before. So I now have collectors all over the country who buy my work, and have been buying my work and have kept my family and I comfortable through all of this. So so Daryl, yes, it was me learning Instagram. So Instagram was my friend, is my friend.
Yeah. I also wanted to just really focus on how you centering your work about Black women or just brown skinned women, and how that was able to really propel your career in the way that you wanted to. Can you just tell us about the impact of seeing like yourself and how that affects you and how that affects other people like myself, to see ourselves, in art, to see images of ourselves in these galleries, and just talk about the significance and impact that it has on our community.
And so all of my work, long before Brownland Girls, has always been about the people of my community. Everything I have ever done has literally been about how do I make a little Black girl feel cherished, loved, and supported. All of my life. And I didn't even recognize that for the longest until I'd met a gentleman one time, who was much older than I was. I was at a temp job, and he was like the vice president of this company that I was temping for. And they were very pleased with how I took care of the image of the company. I was just doing, the picking up the phone. Good afternoon, McMurphy and Randolph, may I help you? I was just like that all day long. I didn't care what anybody said to me. I know how to put a smile on my face when I'm talking on the phone, and it doesn't matter what someone else says to me. I can just do that. Daryl Knott, may I help you? Yeah, all day long, I could do it. So he was really thrilled at what I was doing. And so he says, come and talk to me. I want to find out something more about you. So, we were chatting, and I was telling him some of the projects that I was working on. And he says, so what did you want to do before then? And I said, well, when I started college, I was a art and religious ed double major. And he said, religious ed? And I said, yeah. I said, I don't want to teach religion anywhere. I said, but I want to go back into the secondary school system and talk to young girls about their spiritual being. I want them to be able to honor their spiritual being at a time when all sorts of things are coming at them and they get confused. That's what I want to do. That's the thought I had when I went to college. And of course, that didn't happen. I got married, I got divorced, I changed majors, I don't know, 50 times. And he says, so do you understand that other than this temp job, you were doing exactly what you set out to do? And I think when I met him, I had just created a video called The Making of Tamika's World. And it was a video that I created for the Chicago Historical Society before it was the museum. And we had a mentoring program for young Black girls, mostly from Cabrini Green, but from other parts of the city as well. And they came in while the Sojourner photo exhibit was up. I'll make a world, I'll dream a world. And when we were at a planning meeting and they came to me because I was the actress that they all knew, they said, so Candace, we're wondering if you could create a little skit that could be done every Saturday morning and invite some of your actress friends to come and do it. And I took a deep pause and I said, so first of all, no one says skit past third grade. We just don't do that. And next thing, all of my actor friends are union actors. They cannot give us every Saturday morning. I might get some of them to do one Saturday morning, but they're not going to do the whole summer for free. These are working people who make money. So they were like, well, so they were ready to give up on their idea. And I says, what you need is a static piece that can be shown every Saturday morning. That's the same thing. You need a video. And they were like, well, we can't afford that. And I said, let me work on this through the weekend and let me talk to you on Monday. So I walked out. My agents at the time was over on Evergreen right off of Halsted. So I walked from the Chicago History Museum over to the agent's office. And so you go through Old Town, so there's Yuppie and there's Money, and then you go through another changing neighborhood, and then you pass the backside of Cabrini Green. And I saw some little girls outside in front of one of the buildings of Cabrini Green, and they were playing, and they were joyful, and they were loving. And I said, this is where our little girls always need to keep their hearts before other things come in at them and change them. I want these girls to know that this is possible. This magic of this moment is always possible for your lives. And so by the time I got to my agent's office, I sat down with her and I says, look, I got to do a video. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need you to help me. I need you to help me with the union. So we talked to the union. They gave me waivers for all of my actors. I called up someone who I'd been on set with, who did craft services. Look, I need you to donate food for this piece. I called up a producer friend of mine. I says, look, you always said I had a producer's heart. I need you to work with me. And he said, where's the script? I said, I'm going to have it Monday morning. Monday morning, I had the script. I went back to all these people and I said, this is what we're going to do. Within 2 weeks, I had scripted it. I had put everything together. We shot the film and it was shown to all of these young Black girls every Saturday morning for that entire summer. And each time the girls were thrilled by it and got something incredible out of it. The piece then went on to Channel 11, and it was shown a couple times on Channel 11. I one day get a letter from Channel 11 saying, "Hi, we've submitted your film to the International Black Film Festival in Oakland, and you've been accepted into that festival." The festival, it took first place in the children's category. The piece then went on to the Philadelphia Children's Film Festival and the Chicago Children's Film Festival. I never submitted it anywhere. It traveled on its own because it was about little Black girls and their joy and the magic about being a little Black girl. And so I told this man this, and he says, "Baby, you've always done what you started to do. You may not call it spirituality, you may not call it religion, but you are doing exactly what you said you were going to do when you entered college." And I just had to sit back and go, yeah, wow, I guess I am. So my work has always been about showing somehow a young Black girl or a young Black woman or an older Black woman like myself that we are made of magic, that we are destined for joy, that everything that the heavens can hold, we can hold. And we just have to remember who we are. We're magical beings. And now I'm going to step off of that box I got up on.
You're a marvelous storyteller, Candace,
you.
and thank you, for enlightening us with that story. It's something that I'm going to remember every time I think of little Black and brown girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, Jerry, do you want to ask our last question, or pretty much she summed everything? Can't hear you.
Yeah, I really think that that was a beautiful story. And I agree with Alpha that you are a wonderful storyteller. I'm just so like enthralled by, what you've been saying. Really, my last question would be, since this art talk is about like racism and us talking about some of the things that we go through and how, especially as Black women, we want to preserve like the joy and preserve our peace and things like that. How do you use art to heal yourself from some of the racist experiences or just the oppression that that you may face or have faced, and how can art, or your art specifically, really bring a positive light in the dark world that we live in sometimes?
So all I can do, Daryl, really is create work that moves from somewhere else into me and put it out there. That's my only responsibility as an artist, is to be a vessel, to take whatever that is and let it move through me. And hopefully there's a set of eyes and a heart that receives the message. And I think for the most part, it does.
Thank you so much.
So I did want to share one piece, and I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
So it's one of the most recent pieces. Can I,
Yep.
Let me see if I can do it this, may I? Do I have 1 minute?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can do this.
You're the host.
Okay, can you guys see this piece?
Yep.
Okay, so some of the pieces, some of the brown limbed girls have little stories to go with them. Sometimes they have a title that's just kind of long. And sometimes the pieces make people say things to me, and sometimes the title engenders some kind of response. And so the title of this piece is Raising a Black Child Without Breaking. And I got so many responses to that title because some were young mothers who took it as without breaking themselves, without hurting themselves. Some took it as preserving the life and the heart and soul of the child. So it was taken all sorts of different ways, but it was mostly mothers who were talking about their souls not breaking while you're trying to raise and protect a child. And I just thought that that was so interesting and wonderful, especially in this last year that self-love and protection and has become important conversations where mothers are now talking about how do I protect myself so that I can raise this child? Because I don't think in my mother's day, any Black mother I knew was talking about taking care of themselves before they took care of their children. And so I applauded all of the mothers who said something to me in response to this piece, and it really, really hit home with a lot of people. And so I'm very excited about this piece because of how it spoke to other folks.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And, I'm not a mother, but, my great aunt raised me single-handedly. And I definitely understand. And especially being like 30 years old where I'm becoming an adult. I'm an adult, but I can still, see, how it is as a child and also understand the perspective of a mother, but not truly until I've had my own children. And, Candace and Alpha, you have children as well. So I'm sure that this piece, really speaks to both of you.
Well, I wasn't even thinking of it. When I'm in the place of creating these pieces, I'm not really there all the way. They kind of come to fruition as I'm working on them, and then the titles always come to me, speak to me afterwards. It's the only one that I knew what I wanted to say with it was the piece that I created called 21st Century Pieta, which is a Black woman who is holding a loinclothed grown man across her lap, like the Pieta where it's Mary and Jesus, but these are both Black figures. And it's George Floyd and his mother accepting him into heaven. And the title is Mama, period. Yes, son, period. Because when he called out Mama, she said, I got you. So she took his soul straight to her. So I know his soul is in a good place, and we are left in this world trying to repair the earthly pain that was done. And now I'm gonna make myself cry on that, which I didn't mean to. But that piece, I knew what I wanted to do as soon as I heard in all of the reports that his last word was Mama. Yeah. Okay, back to something that's not gonna make me tear up.
And with that, we're going to end on this topic today was focused on racism and intergenerational and collective trauma can also be linked to experiences of racism, which has fueled prejudice and discrimination against populations of color in America for centuries. And that is what has happened to our survivors and is passed on to the second, and subsequent generations. And the families continues to experience trauma in some form. So today, we want to thank you for giving us your experiences and talking about, racism in a way that this is your reflection from the base, from the family, and not societal racism, but with what has happened in the trauma that now is going to be intergenerational for you and your family, and the ways that you're seeking to and have sought to heal that, and having broader conversations about that. So we're going to end on that note. And this program serves as an extension of the Evanston Arts Center's nonprofit mission to foster the appreciation and expressions of the arts among diverse audiences. It also fulfills its vision to be widely recognized as a dynamic art education and exhibition center that encourages freedom of artistic expression and enriches cultural lives. And with that, again, we thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Candace. This was really wonderful. Thank you. Such a treat. Thank you.
Thank you, loves. Have a great day.
You too.